It's my pleasure now to introduce Sally Jewell Coxe and the Bonobo Conservation Initiative. The title of this panel, or this talk, is Big Win for Biodiversity, the Bonobo Peace Forest.
So I thought I'd let everybody have an opportunity to get up and kind of shake it off for a minute. If I can get the music loud enough. Get on up. You know, this is the 50th anniversary of Woodstock. It's been sitting too much. Okay. So 50 years ago today, about 500,000 hippies got together and changed the world. They sang and danced. They let the world hear loud and clear that they stood for the values of peace and love, women's liberation, caring for each other and our planet. So what does that have to do with saving bonobos in the Congo rainforest? Quite a lot. If there was a mascot for Woodstock, it should have been a bonobo. Thanks to their peaceful, peace-loving, free-loving ways, bonobos have been nicknamed the hippie chimps. But back in 1969, bonobos hadn't even been studied by scientists. And even now, most people don't even know they exist, even though they're our closest relatives. We share almost 99% of the same DNA. In these divisive and difficult times, I think humanity would do well to look to our sister species and learn more about peace, love, cooperation, and feminine power. I can think of a few world leaders, one in particular, who might really benefit. In the 60s, there was also a lot of talk about finding your inner child. Oops, I forgot that slide. So today, I'd like to challenge each of us to find our inner bonobo. Bonobos look a lot more human-like than the other great apes. Their morphology is more like Australopithecus, our common ancestor. They walk bipedally on 2 feet more easily and more often than the other apes. They can even dance too. Their bodies are more lithe and gracile than chimpanzees. They're more arboreal and acrobatic. And they even do yoga poses. Their faces are flatter than chimps and darker, and their facial expressions bear one-to-one correspondence to humans. They laugh and smile just like we do. And bonobos are extremely intelligent. This is my good friend Kanzi, who broke the language barrier. He and his sister Pambanisha have also proven to be pretty good musicians too. They've jammed and composed with both Peter Gabriel and Paul McCartney. Not too shabby for your average bonobo. But the thing that distinguishes bonobos the most is their society and their sexuality. Whereas our other closest relative, the chimpanzee, have a male-dominated, patriarchal, competitive society, bonobo society is matriarchal, where peace and cooperation are the norm. It is not a man's world in bonobo land. Females make alliances with each other to keep the males in check, even though they're stronger physically, and a male's rank is determined by that of his mother. But by contrast, the patriarchal chimps are the only primates other than humans that actually wage violent conflicts against others of their own kind, sometimes to the death, over territory and natural resources. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? It's what most human wars are fought over. But when bonobos groups meet, on the other hand, they usually do some grooming, share food, and maybe have a little orgy. Because bonobos are the only primate other than us humans that has sex not just for procreation, but also for recreation. And they do so in basically any form or fashion, including with members of either sex. So they're bisexual, which is, I think, a compelling fact for understanding what may and may not be normal among humans. So whereas chimps only mate for the few days when a female's in estrus, but bonobo females are always available. So sex permeates all aspects of bonobo life for bonding, pleasure, easing tension. And bonobos really do exemplify that 1960s credo, make love, not war. It's as if chimps and bonobos represent the yin and yang of human nature, the male and female paradigm. At this critical time on our planet, we humans would be wise to emulate the bonobo side of ourselves, learn to cooperate and share resources to ensure our own survival. So we have a motto in the Congo, Sali sa bonobo, pe bonobo, bako sali sa yo. That means help bonobos and bonobos will help you. So I'd like to show you today how helping bonobos helps every living thing and every single person on the planet. Bonobos are only found in one country, the Democratic Republic of Congo. They inhabit the heart of the Congo rainforest, the second largest rainforest on Earth. Together with the Amazon, they're the two terrestrial lungs of our planet. Bonobos live south of the Congo River there in what's called the Cuvette Centrale. It's some of the least explored, most remote, and most biodiverse territory left. More than half the plant and animal species in Africa are found in the DRC. This huge forest sequesters trillions of tons of carbon, produces oxygen, regulates rainfall and weather patterns, and harbors vital watersheds, providing vital ecosystems necessary for all life. Yet in the midst of such untold beauty, the Congo has been the scene of some of the worst human atrocities this world has ever known. Imagine if the entire population of Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, South Dakota, and North Dakota were completely wiped out. That's just to put in context what happened in the Congo. Between 1996 and 2003, the Congo wars took more than 5 million lives. That's more than any war since World War II, and far more casualties than we saw in Vietnam. The war also, wreaked havoc on the entire country, on the infrastructure, increasing poverty, displaced people, and put increased pressure on wildlife. So the commercial bushmeat trade is the worst threat to bonobos. Bonobos only have one offspring every 4 or 5 years, so when you kill a few bonobos, they don't bounce back. But it's decimating wildlife throughout Central Africa. Just last month, some poachers were actually jailed, which is one of the first times a major, crackdown has ever happened. Bonobos are also being trafficked to the Middle East and China. But this is encouraging that the Congolese are starting to enforce their own laws. When we first got started, people didn't even know it was against the law to hunt bonobos, and still many don't. The other biggest threat, of course, is deforestation, industrial logging, and slash and burn agriculture. And recently, University of Maryland came out with a report that has been studying the rates of deforestation in the Congo and the Congo Basin. And they found that at these current rates of deforestation, the entire forest is going to be wiped out by the year 2100. And not just by industrial logging, but mostly through slash and burn agriculture. And of course, larger industrial scale agriculture is also coming in, and that's a big threat as well. So way back as the Congo War was winding down 20 years ago, we're trying to decide, well, how in the world are we going to protect this species? At that time, we didn't even know where bonobos existed apart from a few research sites. But we knew that the best way to find out was to ask the local people. So we began to meet with locals, Congolese scientists, conservationists, leaders from the habitat. And we were talking about, what can we do? And we had the idea of a peace park, because at that point, the country was divided into 3 warring factions. We thought it might split apart into 3 countries. But the people said, no, we don't want another national park. Not a model where you draw a boundary and throw the people out. That's not going to work. And that wasn't really our philosophy either. So we developed the concept for the Bonobo Peace Forest, which is a constellation or a network of community-managed reserves that are supported by sustainable development and linked by habitat corridors. Starting out this way, working directly with the local people, we were led to bonobos in 12 major areas where we did surveys and found viable populations. And beginning to work with these people, we eventually created 2 nature reserves which span 9 million acres of habitat. The Coxe Reserve is the model and pilot for the Peace Forest. But both of these reserves started at the grassroots. And through our work with these communities and further explorations and dealing with the people, we now have 4 other sites that are ready for protection. That's another 2 million acres. In some cases, we've been working in these places over a decade, and we're seeking support to get them legally protected while there's time. These other ones in lighter yellow are also places where people have made agreements to protect their bonobos and want to be part of the Peace Forest. So our goal is ultimately to connect these areas with existing protected areas and national parks to create a vast corridor of protection, not just for bonobos, but for all wildlife. There are many other rare and endangered species. So while this initiative started at the grassroots, it has been endorsed by the highest levels of Congo government. Former President Kabila endorsed it because he appreciated the link between wise management of natural resources and lasting peace in the Congo. So there's really a symbolic and conceptual and practical connection to peace, bonobos being an icon of peace. And just recently, a peaceful transition of power occurred, and for the first time in forever, really, in the DRC, with Felix Tshisekedi taking power. And we renewed that endorsement for the Bonobo Peace Forest, which was announced at the United Nations. That's the ambassador celebrating at our 20th anniversary party after he made that announcement at the UN. The Peace Forest has also been recognized as a finalist in the Buckminster Fuller Challenge for solving to system, providing a systems design approach, an integrative approach to solving global problems. In this case, species extinction, climate change, poverty, and cultural preservation. So back to where we started was with the indigenous people. Many people within the bonobo habitat had ancestral taboos against hunting bonobos, which were perpetuated by legends and stories about mostly how bonobos helped people. One is about how a man had fallen down sick in the forest, and bonobo saw him and realized he was just hungry and brought him bea and bacau and basenda and bahohe. And the people still eat these foods and a variety of medicinal plants that they've learned about through the bonobos. Just a case in point, this is one of our visiting researchers who got a very bizarre and painful microbe in her fingernail, and the only way the indigenous people said to cure it was to go get this goop from a root and put it on there with these special leaves, and sure enough, it worked like a charm. But really, we work within the indigenous culture. That's been our philosophy since day one, and it's been part and parcel of how we've achieved everything we've done together in partnership with the local communities. This is timely, given the fact that the recent IPCC report that just came out a week ago was the very first to recommend bolstering indigenous land rights as a climate change mitigation strategy. And the Indigenous Community Coalition got together and put out their own statement from the report. which we fully and wholeheartedly support. Another very important part of how we've been working in this information exchange, and co-creating solutions with the local people is talking with them and developing solutions to their needs. We train eco guards and trackers who protect the bonobos, participate in surveys, and have a lot of pride in their community, providing income and jobs. There was no health clinic, so we founded a health clinic. And these all are part of what's next as well, because these pilot programs at Coxe were so inspiring that other communities wanted to follow suit. So sustainable agriculture, the staple crop, cassava, had a disease. So we got disease-resistant cassava, which improved yields and reduced impact on the forest. And regenerative agriculture, or agroforestry, are all projects we're working on, along with animal husbandry, et cetera. We also founded a technical college. The people had no institute of higher learning in the area. So we founded one in 2003 that was accredited in 2012, and we're working with a coalition of partners to sustain that college and looking to hopefully start some distance learning programs with better internet connections and microgrids. We've started microcredit and micro-enterprise projects with local women's cooperatives, soap making, couture, and as I said, we're looking to increase the connectivity. But I just want to emphasize the value of the social capital. These relationships, these areas are not just blobs on a map. There's people there. And we have been amazingly fortunate to work with some incredible leaders. These are two of the most important: Albert Locasola, who's the head of Coxe, the main reserve, and Dr. Mwanza Ndunda. Albert is called Sauvage Bonobo, the wild bonobo, and Mwanza is Paca Bonobo, the old wise bonobo. He got his PhD in biology in Russia during the Cold War, and he speaks 7 languages. And he has trained many of our scientific assistants throughout the Peace Forest areas. Albert, thanks in large part to the work we've done with the local communities, he's now been elected to national parliament, and he's working on environmental legislation, including strengthening the community forest law, which is really important to creating more community-based forests in the area. These are just 3 other groups, leaders. We call them our 3 musketeers, who started their own, mobilized their communities to be part of the Peace Forest, and they've done an amazing job. In this guy's case, Cosmas Bofangi, his community had been hunting bonobos. They had forgotten the old taboo. And thanks to our work together, they have made a real strong commitment, and they protect their bonobos and keep people from coming in their forest to hunt them. So I just, and this was a marriage ceremony with Likongo, ceremonial, symbolic marriage, and they're working on pisciculture project there now. So the whole Peace Forest story and the viral phenomenon, really is very well described in this award-winning book by Denis Béchard, who spent a long time with us in the field, did a great job describing our story. So also what's coming up next, we're now starting our 4th year of a longitudinal bonobo research program with Dr. Martin Serbeck there, who is now with Harvard University. So we're looking forward to a great partnership with Harvard. But as this research program has progressed, and the bonobos in 3, now 4 groups are all completely identified, we know the relationships between them, they're named, this is opening up opportunities for ecotourism, which is something we're working on. We just hosted actress Ashley Judd at the field, and my friend James Brundage from Nature Needs Have filmed the expedition. And Ashley, of course, is also a leader in the Time's Up female empowerment movement. She authored a petition for us that got over 250,000 signatures so far. So if you go to care2.com, you can sign on and add your name to the clarion call for bonobos. But Ashley's a great spokesperson, and she brought her good friend Gloria Steinem, got her on board, because time's really up for the patriarchy. And bonobos are a great symbol for that, and they're helping us raise awareness, which is a huge piece of the puzzle. We're doing the same thing in the Congo. This is a man named Werison, who is the top musician. He's, I don't know, he's like Elvis and Michael Jackson combined, but even more of a cultural icon. There's nothing that holds the Congolese people together more than music. And so he has now, he's doing radio spots and a new Bonobo song. There's a video you can see on our website that we just debuted for Bonobo SOS. And we're going to be spreading this throughout the habitat in a widespread campaign. And really, there's nobody that has more influence than him in combining his message with the indigenous legends and stories that we're also putting out. So I won't go on any longer, but I just want to close by bringing it back to where we began. You know, we've been looking 50 years back at Woodstock, but we also, of course, need to look 50 years forward and ask, what is the kind of future we want to create? If we don't act now, we know the future that is in store for us. If we don't save the Congo forest now, it won't be there tomorrow. But we can invoke the hope and optimism of those hippies in Woodstock if we can connect with our own inner bonobos and emulate the peace and harmony of their culture in the middle of the Congo rainforest. If we can raise our voices, pool our resources, and collaborate on solutions, what a wonderful world it will be. Thank you.